Chapter 13. Flight from Thebes. In the house with the red door, Talos listened, amazed. Not an Assyrian plot after all? He would have believed anything of those monsters. And his own brother? Well, who would have thought it? But Amos was not surprised. He had thought all along it might be true. This is what he had waited for. Brothers have risen up against brothers before. We have had our Cains and Abels. But Shabaka? He was my friend, my teacher. After Mbuta, he was like my father. Yes, said Amos. He has a sickness, a greed for power above everything else. He is very dangerous, and not only for you, my lord. This is what I have feared. Even if some miracle delivers Judah from the Assyrians, with such a man as Shabaka on the throne of Egypt, will the men of Judah ever live in peace? He got to his feet. They will come here now for certain. I've known it was coming. There is no place they will not search, and search again. We must leave the city, all of us. Taharka felt a deep shame. Forgive me, Talos, he said. It was my choice to bring you here. Besides, I have done as much business in Thebes as I can. It's time I moved on. Tonight, said Amos. We must leave tonight. It was true. If the soldiers came, they would probably come before dawn. Even now they might be fanning out over the city, quietly of course. They would not want to cause too much stir. They worked in feverish haste, gathering together what possessions they would be able to take. Taharka had little enough. Talos gathered as many of his trade goods as he was able into 2 sacks. Most must be left behind. He had only the one donkey tethered in the court. He had traded the others, hoping to get a better deal when his business was completed. It was too late now. The goat would come too, and as much grain and as many vegetables as they could carry. Taharka thanked the gods for Amos's foresight. They would not starve. Hermes, the donkey, was loaded down with the sacks. They stood for a moment in the entryway, while Talos said a silent farewell to his possessions. A pleasant place, he said sadly. A pleasant city. A great city. The greatest city I will ever see. Amos was scanning the streets outside. His gold rings and bracelets gone, he wore his plainest garments, a simple Phoenician or Syrian tradesman. But Taharka thought that he still looked like a proud foreign prince, someone who should travel with his retinue, chartering a swift boat to carry him to his destination, not someone who should creep out of the city at night with a wandering tradesman and himself. What was he now? A donkey boy? I'm sorry, he said again. I will not be able to help you now. This story is not yet planned out. We all have our highs and our lows, said Amos, and we look ahead beyond the present moment. I think, Great One, my king and I would rather bet our stakes on you than on the man who sailed down the Nile this morning. Great One. It was the first time Amos had ever called him that. The little train set forth. 3 humble travelers, a donkey and a goat. The moon looked down. Thoth, the left eye of the great skyhawk. Only Thoth knew what the future held for them. Thoth must lead them on their way. There was no question of taking passage on a boat. They did not dare go near the docks. They must go to the north gate of the city. They must pray that there would be no questions. Not far from the Great Wall, Amos went on ahead to see what they would have to face while the others took shelter in a deserted court. The news he brought back was bad, the worst. They have reinforced the guard. 3 soldiers from the temple. They are holding a torch up to each person's face. Several Cushite men are being held for questioning. They'll have my description, said Taharka. We can't go through there. All the gates will be blocked, said Amos, and we have no time to wander about the city looking for a way out. No, it is here or nowhere. Think, Talos. Think, Haru. They thought. Then Talos spoke. We have a story. It is told by our bards. A band of men was trapped inside a cave by a one-eyed giant. Their leader put out the giant's eye, and the men clung beneath the sheep as they filed out, so he could not feel them on their backs. You are saying we should rush them and put out their eyes? Said Amos impatiently. No, but look. Talos gestured toward Hermes with his burden of sacks. If a man could hang on beneath with his legs and arms, he would be completely hidden. Taharka looked at him. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. But Amos was saying, as if he took the idea seriously, "We can't all hang on under Hermes, and they will have my description too, maybe even yours. They will be looking for a man and a Cushite boy, most especially a Cushite boy. They can't arrest every Syrian merchant who passes through the gate. As for me, I am unusual to say the least, but we must chance it that I have not been thought important." "I think Shabaka and the sun priest will leave little to chance," said Amos grimly. "Let me think. Wait. A blue-eyed trader is unusual. A blue-eyed slave is not so unusual. And as for the skin," he scooped up a handful of the packed earth of the courtyard. He smeared it over Talos's face, neck, and arms. "The legs too, and this." He rummaged in his pack and found a square of colored cloth which he wrapped around Talos's head. "Always come prepared." He lifted his pack and dropped it onto Talos's back along with Talos's own. "There you are, a very dirty, dusty slave whose hair and skin might be any color. Who among these Nile people ever look at a slave anyway? But, just to be safe, keep your eyes on the ground." Weighted down by the packs, Talos didn't have much choice. "And now," said Amos, "for the Cushite boy." Taharka looked wearily at Hermes. Talos quieted the animal, saying, "Good Hermes, good boy, don't bray or kick." Taharka dropped to his knees, then he rose again. "No," he said, "I can't do it." "You're right," said Amos. Taharka even thought he was laughing a little. But Hermes is a very obedient donkey, very quiet and mild. Talos sounded insulted. "Nevertheless," said Amos. He loosened the pack straps and removed one of the sacks from Hermes' back. "What are you doing?" hissed Talos. Amos emptied the sack into the court. "My soft goods, my woolens from Corinth." "Someone will be very pleased," said Amos, "but we carry a more precious burden. Into the sack, young hawk." Hermes was indeed a very mild and obedient donkey, and he did little more than startle and utter some protesting snorts and muttering as the strange burden was hoisted up and strapped into place. He neither brayed nor kicked. Taharka, bound and secure against Hermes' well-padded ribs, had never been so outraged or so uncomfortable. "I can't do this for long," he croaked. "As long as you have to," said Amos. "Come, let's go. Pray to my God. He seems to be fond of escapes from Egypt." Talos tugged at Hermes' lead strap. Hermes balked and groaned. Taharka heard a mighty slap and was jolted past bearing as the animal set out at a trot. He soon settled down, however, and the jolting changed to swaying. Taharka thought he would be sick. "We're in luck," he heard Amos whisper. "They're shooting dice." The four men were, in fact, very bored with their task and had gotten interested in their game. They were not in the least suspicious of the Syrian trader with his donkey, his goat, and his slave. They had had 3 Syrian merchants already that night. "Where are you bound?" one of them asked, more out of curiosity than anything else. "Not far," said Amos. "Coptos, pottery, clothes, copperware." "Have a good trip," said the soldier. And so, strapped to the side of a donkey, Pharaoh was carried out of his city. In the chamber of the god, Shabaka took possession of Taharka's cedarwood chair. He was very tired. He closed his eyes, stretched his legs, hung back his head. But this would not do. There was no time to rest. The high priest would be here soon, so much to be settled before he left with the army, and the army must leave in 2 days' time. The high priest came in on his knees with warm words of welcome. Shabaka cut them short. "The marriage?" "All preparations have been made, great God. The ceremony can take place tomorrow." "It must take place tomorrow, and be ready to record my name in your books immediately after, and have them begin the inscriptions on the temple wall, from the day of my father's death. Remember." "You will go with the army, great one." "Of course." Shabaka flashed a warning glance at the kneeling man. The high priest made no protest. "Your companion, my lord?" "I have brought my cousin, Tanit. He's slow in his wits, but he can perform the rites. The rest I can leave to you." The high priest nodded. He had no objections to that. There was a short silence. Shabaka turned his head toward the windows. "The pretender?" he said at last. "The city is being searched. All the gates are guarded. He will be found, great one." The priest hesitated. "When he is found, what then?" There was a longer silence. "I don't know," said Shabaka. "I don't want him harmed. Not yet." The high priest looked up in surprise. Shabaka frowned. "Something troubles you?" "I had thought, my lord, I had thought when what? When Pharaoh's when the pretender's food taster died. What? And the high priest saw that the new god really was as astonished as he himself had been. He was completely confused. As for Shabaka, after the first shock, he almost laughed out loud. He was going to like Thebes. They weren't afraid of anything here. They had really tried to kill him. It would have solved this problem for him. Nevertheless, I don't want him harmed. Keep him close till I return. And he thought, the Assyrians, not the priests, might have attempted the murder. A delaying tactic to keep Egypt busy with her own calamities. They must really be on the move. And who in the great house was being paid by them? No, this war must be fought quickly. 2 days? The army must leave tomorrow. He rose to his feet. Our plans have changed, High Priest. Which plans, Great One? The High Priest felt as if he had been running. He was not even familiar yet with the old plans. He thanked the gods that he was being left with the slow-witted cousin. The marriage will not take place tomorrow. There is no time. When I return, they can have as big a show as they like. To his surprise, the high priest looked relieved. This pleases you? Well, Holy One, there was a problem. What problem? The divine priestess Shetnu said. Shetnu, little princess high and mighty, little brat. She had always been a problem. In fact, said the high priest, she has locked herself up. That's no problem. In fact, the priest said again, she has barricaded herself in. And you have no one who can take care of that? Well, we might have some trouble finding somebody who would be willing to do it. You see, he seemed to have some difficulty with the words. You see, she has barricaded herself into the Holy of Holies. For just a moment, even Shabaka's skin crept. Then he really did burst out laughing. But he sobered quickly. There was one thing on which his mind was set. One thing, High Priest, one thing most important. Custom or no custom, marriage or no marriage, tomorrow you will have my name recorded in the books. Tomorrow you will begin the inscriptions on the wall. Remember, from the day of my father's death.